So I'd like to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, grand predecessors and predecessors, to have this opportunity to talk about this. Okay, so in this one, all right, let's see, we can look at this. All right, so at the beginning of the main scripture, there's a little bit of a preamble or something, I guess. So it says the tests and trials to refine the spiritual foundation. Okay, so I guess that's what this is. So yeah, all cultivators have to go through certain tests. Yeah, I mean, it's no different than going to school, right? You go to school, you have to be tested on your knowledge, right? If you don't pass the test, then that means you don't know, you didn't learn, right? So the same thing as a cultivator is we go through certain tests to test not necessarily knowledge, but our cultivation, our virtues. Okay, that's really what the tests are about. Our wisdom. Okay, so all Buddhas and saints, they all go through these tests. Jesus, he was tested, right, by Satan, and so same thing. We all have to go through these tests if we want to achieve that kind of level. Then we all have to go through those tests. So don't be afraid of that. I mean, if we can pass those tests, then we've achieved. But heaven's not going to give us tests that we cannot pass. I mean, heaven is also merciful. They know, they know, heaven knows what we are capable of. And so heaven will only give us what tests are appropriate for each of us. So it could be different for everyone, for different levels. So, but the important thing is that we put in that effort, be sincere, and put in the effort to do our best, all right? Okay, so this first set of these passages here, it says, okay, so this the final salvation is an extraordinary and wondrous affinity, which has never happened before. It is an unexpected gospel bestowed by heaven, and the profound and subtle meaning within it is huge. This wondrous purpose of heaven is to open the heavenly selection of the best talents via this final salvation in order to save and guide the heavenly children home. In the intermediate period of Wu Hui and Wei at the Longhua Assembly, those true Tao cultivators would be selected as the Buddhas and saints within the assembly, right? So these two, this Wu and Wei, okay, so this is part of that cycle, right? Right, so this is the cycle. So the beginning is down here, right? That's Wei. Now at the top is Wu, right? So that's and then the next, it's divided into 12, right? So the next one, Wei, right? Wei. All right, so it's saying that I guess the transition between the Wu and the Wei phase. Okay, these are different time periods. These are 10,800 years each. Okay, so we are at this time period. That's roughly like 60,000. Well, roughly half the time from when, quote unquote, the humans, modern humans, were in this world. Okay, so that's why the Buddhas always say, you've been around in this world for 60,000 years. They use that rough number, 60,000 years, to say we've been reincarnating that long. Okay, but this is the time of the white era. Okay, the salvation period. So remember the 17th patriarch, right? So he's the start of the white era, and then the 18th patriarch. Okay, so it is during this time that before that, right, the red and the green periods, people have been cultivating, but they didn't have the opportunity to really attain Buddhahood. Well, actually, there are people who did attain Buddhahood during that time, but it's very few. That they had to prove themselves worthy. So like the patriarch, same thing. It's like the 17th or 16th patriarch. He has to know who to pass to the next patriarch is, and he would only pass it to someone who's actually worthy, right? They're really enlightened. Just like in each of the previous patriarchs, that's the way they did it. And so most other people, like all the other disciples, they would not get that mandate, even though, and it's not clear whether they would even. Well, in this case, like the 16th patriarch, I mean, his disciples probably all received the Tao, but before that is not many. There wouldn't be that many people who received the Tao, right? But today we're in this white era, which means it's universal salvation. Everyone has the chance, has the opportunity. As long as they have that affinity, right? The affinity that are, you could say, from previous lifetimes, the Buddhas and saints, when they were incarnate into this world, they've established some kind of a good affinity with us. Either they helped us or whatever, saved us before, that we have that connection. And we've maybe in also in some previous lifetimes, we've cultivated, whether practicing in some kind of religion or something, so that established that connection. So that in this lifetime, when the Tao is available to everyone, that we have that chance to receive it. Okay, so that's very important. That's like planting the seed from before, and then now we reap the result. Okay, so that's why this is very, very profound. And so it is only through this that we can receive this Tao and then be able to transcend. Because during this time, we're going to have there are a lot of calamities, disasters, right? Shootings in this country. All these things happening. People are dying. But so this is essentially to save all the good people, that we can go back, right? This Longhua assembly is at the end of this white era, or at the end of the period when the Tao, stops propagating. Okay, it's not propagated openly anymore. Then that is when basically everyone who's received the Tao, cultivators, right? That's when you can say heaven or the Buddhas, whatever, God determines what are based on our merits and virtues. What our position is. So everyone's supposed to, you go back, you're supposed to have some kind of lotus position, right? So that is determined by what we've done, through our cultivation, our merits and virtues. Okay, so that's what that is. Okay, so, but then, they do say it's like how many, 48,000, I don't know, saints and 3,600 sages or something. Huh? Yeah. 4,800 圣. Yes, 4,800. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, there's some number, but I don't know if it's a fixed number. But anyways, that's what they say. Okay, so there's certain.
It's all pre-selected.
Yeah, pre-selected maybe. Yeah. See, actually, a lot of people who are incarnated today and they've received the Tao, etc., cultivating, they also maybe received the Tao, or they were cultivating in those green and red periods as well. And so a lot of those who actually achieved during that time, they've come back again during this time to help propagate the Tao. All right, because Maitreya, right, one thing that was mentioned, that Maitreya Buddha, his mission, you can say, he started it as the 17th patriarch to have this universal salvation, to create, as the Maitreya Buddha, he had the vow to create, you can say, paradise, heaven on earth, okay? So that's very similar to, creating the kingdom of heaven on earth, right? And that's in the Bible, right? So, but anyways, so this is part of that. All right. So, okay. Now, all right. So this is now the start of the official start here. The 8th sermon says, I feel distressed when giving my children this 8th admonitory sermon. I feel numb now. My children are still unable to see the true and false of the secular world clearly, are still attached to unreal things, indulging in desires and related enjoyment and suffering endless hardship. Okay, you have no real intention to cultivate Tao. You are just doing superficial things. You do not realize the truth, and there is no aspiration to do so. You always say that you have no time and fail to cultivate it truly and study it well. Most of you are reluctant to leave the worldly sentiment. You lose your conscience and violate the justice of nature or of the gods. You even forget about the teachings from the Buddhas and the saints. Or you are afraid there might be trials and tests in Tao cultivation. Your aspiration is not strongly fixed, and your will is not pious enough. So Lao-Mu, or God, sees that we, even people who've received the Tao and they're supposed to be cultivating, but they're not really. And so God is very sad to see that, because receiving the Tao is you can say it's a prerequisite to transcending, but it's not sufficient by itself. So I can't say, oh, I received the Tao. Okay, that's fine. I have my ticket to go home, but if I don't get on that plane, if I don't actually work to get to the airport to get on the plane, then I'm not going to get there. So that's right. We have to cultivate. Okay, that's very important. So we have to establish that. You can say that's why we have vows. Vows help us to achieve that goal, right? So we always make these vows, just setting a goal for ourselves to get there. Okay, and so right. So God is saying, we all see we see all this stuff is real, right? All this stuff is true, but it's not, because everything is impermanent. Everything is subject to change. Life is unpredictable, okay? So, just yesterday we had a Daokin who's passed. I don't know if she's really passed away yet, but she did, okay. Because,
she did pass? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of all of a sudden that happened.
Did you confirm it today?
No, yesterday.
No, now they say she's in a vegetable state.
Well, yeah, I don't know. There's apparently like one doctor says that she's not brain dead yet, but anyways, yeah, it just happened all of a sudden. I think on yesterday yesterday, I guess it was yesterday. Yeah, that she just passed out and she hasn't woken. So things like this can happen, and so really we have to be very conscientious and make the best use of our time, because we have no idea, go to sleep, next day I'm going to wake up or not. So we definitely need to do our best to cultivate, to perform merits, to cultivate our virtues. Okay. And only in that way, that also helps us to offset any karmic debts. Okay, so these karmic debts, they're these collectors, they're going to collect their debts, okay, in this lifetime, because especially when we have received the Tao, they know that we're gonna leave this world, and so they want to collect their debts before we leave, right? So in a sense, you could say that as a cultivator, we're gonna have to pay off all our debts first. Right? For most people, if they didn't receive the Tao, they're not transcending, so it doesn't matter, right? There's plenty of time, right? Whether it's this lifetime or a future lifetime, they can still collect their debts because they know they're going to have to come back. But we're leaving this world, so we're transcending, and so they know they're worried that they're not going to be able to collect their debts, so they're going to try to collect as soon as possible, right? But our holy teacher, is very merciful, is helping us. At least for the first 3 years of receiving the Tao, he'll kind of block the debt collectors for a while. But then we need to, on the hope that we cultivate, that we perform merits, that we accumulate merits, build up our virtues, so that when that time comes, when those debt collectors come, our holy teacher can use the merits and virtues to help pay off those debts, right? So that's why it's very important to do that. So so we shouldn't just be. I mean, when we're young, maybe we think, okay, there's plenty of time, but that's not true. Young people die too. So you just look at the shooting in Florida, right? So a lot of students died. So don't think that way. As soon as you think that we let our guard down, then something could happen, right? So the fact that you're here in the temple, we're learning about this, that we should be diligent in cultivating. Okay. All right. So, and then, don't just do things superficially. A lot of things, we think, okay, I'll just go through the motions, but it's not. We really should understand what's the meaning and why we're doing these things. Okay. So like the proprieties, all those things, it's very important. Don't think that, I don't feel like doing all those bows, but it's very, if you understand what they mean, then it's good for us, okay, to do those, right? It's showing also our respect, humility, all that. We have to get rid of our ego. That's part of the meaning there, okay? Okay, so, and then, say, I don't have time, right? That's always a constant excuse. People don't have time. They're working, school, etc. But really, this is really more important. I mean, yes, we do need to do what we have to do outside, but this is also very important, because this can also give us wisdom. Wisdom is very important in guiding us throughout life. Okay, so that's more. It's not something that you can learn in school or outside. Okay, so that's very important. All right. Yeah, so we have to learn to let go, and let go of that ego, let go of all sorts of material things, and whatever we learn here, learn from the Buddha's teachings. That's very important. Always keep in mind, okay, because they will help us in times of when we do encounter these hardships and these trials and tests. All right, okay. So all right, so let's continue here. So it says. It has been a fixed principle that the real Tao cultivation is accompanied by genuine tests and trials. These tests are to see if the Tao cultivator's heart is pure or not, to refine him, to become brave and unyielding, to become pure and flawless like a perfect jade. There's a saying, jade must be cut and chiseled to make it useful vessel. Right? What a suitable expression. If a man does not diligently work hard and allow himself to be tempered by human affairs, he cannot be a useful person, even though he has a beautiful nature and an inborn intelligence. This is like gold, which needs to be thoroughly tempered so that it will be purely refined and give out its glory. When a tree is going to be used as a main beam of a house, the branches and leaves need to be removed. In a big engineering project like a mansion, the foundation needs to be worked heavily again and again, so it will be deep, stable, and solid. So again, this process of refinement, right? Our character, we need to refine ourselves. I mean, it's not like instant. We say, the next day I received the Tao. The next day I'm a saint, a pure like a saint or a Buddha. It takes a lot of work because we have a lot of habits. We have a lot of desires, attachments, things that we need to gradually get rid of. I mean, it doesn't. For a lot of people, it's hard to. It's not instant, right? Just like becoming vegetarian, for example. It wasn't instant for me, right? It was a gradual process. Some people, they can do it instantly, but for me, it's a gradual process. So everything, we do it as long as we put in that, we need to put in that effort, the sincere effort to want to change ourselves, transform ourselves to be like a saint and Buddha, okay? So yeah, they use the metaphor of like, you have to carve that jade, or you have to smelt the gold, the ore, to get that pure gold out of it. Okay, so the same idea. We have to go through that process. Okay. We can use the following metaphors as the principles of a person's life. Only when you can accept various strikes, take different kinds of torment, and accumulate rich experiences can you emit real wisdom. Only the family with a background of poverty can create a heartfelt, sincere, dutiful, and filial son. When a country is in chaos, the loyalty of the subject is shown. The grass that cannot be destroyed in the storm wind is the grass that has real strength. Without tests and tribulations, it is difficult to find and select the real and outstanding talents in the mixture of the true and the false. All of these previously mentioned examples are to illustrate that only those who remain unyielding and indomitable while repeatedly being tested can be said to be outstanding and have high aspirations, right? So yeah, so it's like the grass or the tree that is withstanding the hurricane force winds or the tornadoes. Those are the ones that'll last, right? And so just like us, when we are encountering these difficult tests and trials, that as long as we don't give up, we never give up, and we keep moving forward, and we stick. We are sincere and we keep the faith, right? Then we can succeed. Then we are, there's the saying, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger and better, right? So it's the same idea. We have to weather the storm and get through all that. And it's this path is not alone, right? We're not alone. We have all these cultivators in the temple, and we can help each other in times of these difficulties, okay? But ultimately, it all depends on us having that will, having that determination, the resolve to get through it and to keep moving forward no matter what. Okay. And the like the grass and the trees, whatever. Right. We also have to be flexible in our dealings with things, situations. Right. The one that's flexible will not break. Okay. So sometimes, even though, there are, right, the rules and regulations that we follow, this is where we have to use our wisdom and how we apply it in situations. Okay, so it's not always say, oh, in this situation, I always have to apply it like this, right? It depends on the situation. So we have to use our wisdom to apply it appropriately, okay? It's not breaking the rules. It's just that it's because the rules you can say like they're absolute principles, okay? So those rules don't change. But when we apply them, the application is all relative, depends on the situation, right? All situations are relative, are different. And so when you apply the principle, you have to know how to apply it. Okay, so that's where the wisdom comes in, right? Okay. So there have been countless Tao or true practitioners since the ancient times, and all received trials and training from heaven. Let me give you some examples. Okay, so you all remember Jiang Ziya of the Zhou dynasty in Chinese history. Before he became successful and fortunate, he was selling white flour. Once his flour stand was pulled down to the ground by a horse, the flour spread all over and the wind blew all the flour away. There were also all kinds of other tests to temper his mind and nature, together with many difficulties. Furthermore, when Zhou Wenwang, a king of the Zhou dynasty, was imprisoned by King Zhou, king of the Shang dynasty, in Youli for 7 years, Zhou Wenwang knew that this was his fixed destiny. So, yeah, in the past, so Jiang Ziya, he was also one of the patriarchs of Tao. So again, it's showing examples of many times they encountered difficulties, but yet they persisted. Okay, same with the Wenwang. Okay, so he was imprisoned. In fact, he was forced by the evil King Zhou to eat the flesh of his son or his father. I forgot son. Right, 这肉包，就做了那个肉包给他吃了，就是好像是他的 ，yeah, but he knew it was his I forget, it was his son, I think, that because the son was killed by the king, the Zhou, and then he made these meat buns using his flesh, and he forced him to eat it. But anyways, that's another story.
Did he eat it?
Yeah, except that he spit it out and it became like a rabbit. That was but because he was forced to. But anyways, actually, Wenwang, he's also one of the patriarchs in the Tao. Okay, so all these patriarchs, they all went through various extreme trials, and okay, so it's not for us, we probably won't our trials actually are nothing compared to the things that they have to go through. Okay, all right. So the great teacher Confucius also suffered many destined calamities. For example, when he was passing through the Song and Wei countries, even his footprints were cleared away, and the tree which he was resting and preaching was cut down. He and his students were also besieged between the two countries, Chen and Cai, and were short of food. They were starving for 7 days. People at the time thought of Confucius as mad. What can you say about it? If those people were too ignorant to understand the truth of his sufferings, right? So why these patriarchs, why these cultivators, persist in spite of all these setbacks? Because they know how precious this truth is, this Tao is, and that they need to continue to propagate it. And it's not for their sake. I mean, it's for the sake of all people, sentient beings, to help save people. Okay, so that's why they do it. It's all very selfless, just like Jesus. He sacrificed himself for the sake of spreading the teachings. Okay, all right. So when the immortal Chu Tangzun, so this is one of the 7 Taoist masters. Okay. He was cultivating Tao. The hardship he had suffered was very demanding. He suffered critical starvation 72 times and a countless number of small ones. Okay, so again, yeah, that you can read. There is a book, English translation of that. It's called The 7 Taoist Masters, and you can read. It's very. We did go over cover that story in one of the classes, but it's very instructive to learn how they cultivate it. I mean, they went through many difficult hardships to cultivate, and yet, in the end, they all succeeded. So, but that's just to show, that spirit of cultivation is very very strong in them. And so we should also try to learn to have that kind of spirit of cultivation for us to succeed. Right? The ancient princess Miao San, or Guanyin Bodhisattva, right, was tortured so much by King Miao, her father, right, during her cultivation of Tao that eventually she sacrificed her life. The immortal Sun Bu, who's also one of the 7 Taoist immortals, masters, burned her beautiful face on purpose with hot oil and became an ugly pockmarked faced woman so that she could be convenient for her to cultivate Tao, right? So again, they sacrificed a lot. You probably all know the story of Guanyin, right? She had to cut some of her, give up an eye, cut off some flesh for her father, right? To cure some illness, but she was willing to do that. So that's that filial piety. And so, anyways, all of these cultivators, they all showed, they're all willing to sacrifice themselves for the better good, the good of everyone, for that truth. Okay, it's no different than the early Christians who were thrown to the lions in the Colosseum, right? They are all willing to die for the truth. Okay. The tests and trials nowadays have been tremendously lightened compared to ancient times. Cultivation has become easy and carefree. The tests and trials from heaven are to temper those who have a deep spiritual foundation and affinity so that their true heart and Buddha nature can manifest themselves and give out a great brilliance. The ladder leading to saints, sages, and Buddhas is built through these tests and trials. Those who can realize this heavenly arrangement will surely pass the tests and trials to return to paradise. Right? So again, that is, we have to go through that process. No one can skip that. So we have to face it one day, and maybe many times in our lives, perhaps. But if we can get past those tests, then we have achieved. Then we can become Buddhas and saints. Okay, so don't give up, and don't feel, definitely don't give up. We can't give up. Okay, this is such a great opportunity for us to become, the saying that we can become a saint or Buddha in this one lifetime, as opposed to in the past it took them many lifetimes to get to this point. So we shouldn't. This is like the best opportunities, through heaven's grace, that we have this opportunity to be able to achieve in this one lifetime. But it obviously it's going to take a lot of effort and these tests. Okay. This is my subtle stratagem as a camouflage of the waves of tests and trials. On the surface, it looks like an intolerable and very dark, gloomy suffering, but actually is full of bright and brilliant grace. One has to undergo different kinds of tests to cultivate true Tao, or else those from the red light district could easily attain Buddhahood, right? Without tests and trials, how can the sage, the wise, the foolish, and the sincere ones be differentiated from one another? Who is willing to give his heavenly position to someone else to take, right? So this is kind of a weeding out process, right? So obviously the normal people, they're gonna say, they think we're foolish for sacrificing and for cultivating, but in the end, you can say we're going to be laughing. Well, we won't be laughing, but they're not gonna achieve. They're going to be suffering, right? They're going to be suffering, because everyone, people's normal view is very short-sighted, right? They see, what I can gain in this life, what I can enjoy in this life, that's it. That's what counts. But that's not the big picture, right? We have to look at the big picture, the long-term view. Because they can enjoy this life, but in the next life they're going to suffer tremendously. So that's being very short-sighted. Okay, so that's why. So this, you can say these tests also kind of differentiate, to separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay, and even among cultivators, there are many cultivators who say, they receive the Tao, they receive the blessing, but then they don't want to cultivate. When difficulties come, they say, forget it. I don't want to deal with this. They want to still enjoy their life. So unfortunately, that's kind of they've wasted this great opportunity. Okay, so we don't want to become like that, right? Okay, so you need to spend years of hard study and make every effort to make a success and obtain an official rank in the competitive human world, to say nothing of how many tests and trials it takes to reach the heavenly position. Many of you cannot realize the meaning within tests and trials, and your aspirations shrink before tests and trials arrive. That makes me very sad. Okay, I cannot help but burst into tears, and the tears are running down onto the sand plate. I have been bringing letters to my children again and again. However, you just cannot understand the meaning they contain. You just do not want to awaken. Those who violate the holy revelation and do whatever they wish will encounter a bitter result. Right? They will be imprisoned in Yingsan. Well, Yingsan is like the bottom level of hell. Okay, but yeah, I mean, if we go against God's will, then that's we will be punished. So it's best to follow God's will. All right, and then we can have the glory when we return back to heaven. Okay, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we need to break out of our, you can say, get out of the box, right? Break out of our normal way of thinking, our normal view, right? Buddha, that's why, the Four Noble Truths, very important. That first thing is to have the proper view of what's understanding of the world and life and the truth, okay? Understand the truth. Once we understand the truth, then that's setting that proper direction for us to go in, to cultivate, practice in, okay? So that's very important. That's the direction. It has to be proper. Okay, so my children, do hasten to realize your original true heart and Buddha nature, which will never be shaken, no matter how many tests and trials strike you. The aspiration for cultivating Tao should be firm and pure. Stick to this supreme Dharma, the Tao. Persevere and be sincere to the utmost. To face all kinds of difficulties and tests from evil spirits. Then naturally these tests and trials will cease. Be tranquil, stay away from annoyance, and then you will not be troubled and bothered. In ancient times, those who wished to cultivate the true heavenly Tao needed to go away from home and travel over mountains and rivers, searching for Tao and the heavenly decreed enlightening teacher. However, even though the long and arduous journey had been made, it was still not certain that they would be able to receive the true heavenly Tao. Even if their shoes had been worn out, it was still not certain that they would be able to find the true Dharma, right? So, yeah, in the past, that's people actually, these cultivators, they were seeking that enlightening master, okay? But a lot of them failed in their search. They couldn't find that enlightening master because there weren't very many then. But today it's so easy, right? Someone, our introducer brings us to receive the Tao, and that's it. You've got it. And but we think it's not very precious. I mean, it's because it's so easy to obtain, right? And actually, we make it too easy, actually. We do make it too easy, okay? So, and that's why that's part of the reason why people don't think it's precious. I mean, it really, so some Tao temples, they make it, they kind of have a filtering out process. I mean, you have to be vegetarian for 3 days, for example, before you can receive the Tao blessing. And so that really, to show your true sincerity and faith that you want to receive it. So that's one form, but we just make it too easy. And so people don't really see how precious it is. It's only when we have these trials and things something, the karmic debt starts to come, that we start praying to Buddhas and gods, say, oh, please help me. But actually, we have to learn to help ourselves. Only when we can help ourselves are we willing to change ourselves, right? To cultivate, perform merits, nurture our virtues, that the Buddhas can actually help us, right? So, right, God only helps those who help themselves, and that saying is very true. Okay, it's all dependent on us. Okay. Okay, so when someone encountered countless hardships, tests, trials, miseries, and bitterness, all of these were really beyond words. When his most sincere heart did arise with true aspiration to touch the Buddhas, to secretly initiate him to cultivate and nurture the seeds of Tao. And when the necessary merits and virtues had been perfectly built up, he was awarded with a heavenly position and worshipped by human beings. However, life in some of the levels of celestial heaven, right, which is or temporary heaven, was very limited. It was temporary, not eternal. So a lot of people who maybe they didn't receive this Tao, so receiving the three treasures, okay, that enables us to transcend the celestial heaven and actually go to what we call the absolute heaven, okay. That's where all the Buddhas are. the celestial heaven is for mostly for people who they've cultivated, they did good deeds, okay, in life. They didn't receive the three treasures, and so, but they, you can say they were rewarded in that next life. It's a spiritual life in the celestial heaven, okay, but it's still temporary. So these are like what typically we call them like saints. They're in that realm, but it's also a limited time. I mean, it's longer than a human lifetime, but it's a limited time, and they still have to come back. Okay, so it's not going to the absolute, not really transcending that cycle of life and death, reincarnation. Okay. Okay, so compared to the ancient people, how easy it is for you to receive and cultivate Tao nowadays. You do not have to travel on a long journey to search for the heavenly decreed enlightening teacher and the holy mantra. You receive Tao first, cultivate it step by step, then awaken and guide sentient beings who have good affinity. Make more efforts on transforming the secular world into paradise. This transmission of Tao is extraordinary, to come at this time only when it is needed. Otherwise, Tao transmission is not supposed to be revealed easily. I am doing all of this to spread the merciful grace so that you can cultivate at home. At the same time, you can take care of your worldly affairs. However, the time of the last calamity is approaching. It is urgent now. Although the holy affairs and worldly affairs can be done at the same time, you need to take the holy affairs as priority. Do practice Tao truly and diligently. Do not be lazy. Right? So, as these calamities are coming. The final calamity, of course, is the last calamity is probably, well, I mean, we can only guess, but it could be World War III, okay? And when that happens, no one, it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad, okay? So, so before that, we don't know when that's going to happen, right? I mean, yeah, we see with the current administration, war can break out. He's crazy enough to do that. Yeah, we have to be cautious. We have to do what we can right now to help, especially cultivate ourselves, and then to spread the Tao, bring others to receive the Tao as well, because that can save them. Actually, the temple is a sanctuary during the time of, if there's nuclear war, the temple is a safe haven. Okay, it's a place of safety. If we are cultivators, then we can also be saved as well. So that's why it's very important that we have to take this seriously. All right. Okay. So I am writing this admonitory sermon to my children, wishing that you would read it thoroughly to understand the meaning and wake up to realize the truth. This holy revelation is not like ordinary articles to teach people to do good deeds only. For you, my children, I have already done my best and expended all my energies. Be sure to steadfastly keep my words in mind and propagate the truth widely. I will stop writing this admonitory sermon here, and at Holy Mediums take a break. I will come again to continue writing the next sermon. Okay, so yeah, in this sermon, it's just warning us that, we need to go cultivate, and despite the hardships or trials, we will encounter many tests and trials, that we need to have that will, that resolve to get through those, okay? And to not, don't be lazy, don't waste our time, basically. That do what we can do, what we are able to do now. So, we can start spreading the Tao to our family and friends, co-workers, do as much as we can before that final calamity comes. Well, there will be many other calamities in between, just like those shootings or earthquakes or anything. Those will happen. You can say we are more fortunate maybe in this country, in this area, that we don't have a lot of those natural calamities, but anything can happen, right? Terrorists, bombings, all sorts of things can happen. So we should not, we should definitely just be diligent in our cultivation, okay, and definitely try to spread the Tao to others, bring others to receive the Tao, because that is one form of merit, and it's one of the highest forms of merit, so that can help us a lot, and it's helping them, okay. Okay, so any questions from this sermon? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
One of the things that the sermon spoke a lot about tests, And I'm sure most of you have questions about the test, because tests can be great tests. The test can be simple. Like you're leaving, you're in a hurry and you forgot to take your keys and now you're locked out. That's a test. How are you going to deal with it? Or you maybe, late for work and you're driving and the traffic is really bad and you got stuck in that traffic, and how do you deal with it? All those are tests, because we're not supposed to start honking and cursing at the other people who bad driving us and so forth. Or something happened and someone said, oh, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. All those things are tests. There's no such thing. You're supposed to be there when those things happen. As humans, most of the times, you don't understand that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It happens because it's our time for those little things to happen. So test is very important that we understand how we deal with those things, because they are destined to happen. So lecture I said, so we're paying back karma. So those are the tests.
Yeah, so always be mindful, right, of what we learned, the principles. We shouldn't get angry no matter what. We shouldn't, all these things. I had one of these little tests, right? I was driving. I was trying to parallel park on the street, and this other car came up from behind, and he's honking his horn. But I was like, why is he honking? He could have just gone around me. And then so I was backing up, and then as he pulled up next to me, he shouted some epithets at me. I was like, I didn't get angry. I just couldn't understand why he was doing that. Okay, I was just flabbergasted. So, but I was taking my mom to the hospital, so it's like. So I thought, okay, maybe I passed that test. Didn't get angry. So hopefully, we always have these types of tests, and a lot of times if we start thinking the wrong way and we think negative stuff, right? I was tested there too, and I didn't pass that test. Having negative thoughts, and it eventually ended up with, I hurt my thumb as a result of that. I was trying to that window was stuck, but then I know that I was having these bad. No, not this one. It was over there, but. I've been having these negative thoughts, and eventually, I forcefully pulled the window, and it became unstuck, and it smashed my thumb, as a result. But I knew then that it was because of my thoughts were not proper. So these, we'll suffer the results of that. So we always have to be mindful, right? In cultivation, we have to be mindful of how we should behave, how we should conduct ourselves, how we should think, even what we say, what we do. Always be mindful, always be composed, right? Never let the emotions take control. Once the emotions take control, then we lost, and we do anything. We don't do things, and we'll regret it later. So always, keep that under control. So we have to get rid of our temper and correct any kind of bad habits we have, right? That's all part of it. Yeah. All right, anything else?
There are also tests such as we cultivate in the temple, on top of the temple for some time, and things get smoother. Family or business or your career, everything goes so well now. And then suddenly you feel like you don't have to come to the temple. You can just enjoy life. That's what we call a smooth test.
Yeah, so tests aren't always like, having hardship, but it could be, good times, right? Tests of the good times. So you think, wow, so good. Why do I need to cultivate? Yeah, so that's the other type of test. Right, so again, we should not forget that we do need to cultivate, no matter how good or bad the times are. Okay, so a lot of people they don't cultivate anymore because for them it's like they have everything in life, luxuries, everything, enjoyment. So why bother, right? But that's very short-sighted again.
Also, I have a fever, a little temperature, and I was aching all over yesterday. I was supposed to conduct a class in the English, the Chinese group today. I still managed to work on my preparation, but in the afternoon it was so bad, and so I had to, lie in bed for the entire afternoon. And I was still thinking, I still would love to be able to conduct a class, because I know Buddha has told us there are two ways for us to pay off our debt, either in the bed, in the sick bed, or in a temple. And I'd rather choose to be, fulfill the vows or paying off the debt in the temple. Yeah, so I actually emailed Lecture Pai about the situation, and I was still, struggling to, work on the notes. But finally, about 8 p.m., I was still so bad. So I decided to pass that opportunity because I don't know if I'll be able to conduct a class well, and so that I won't waste people's time here. But in spite of the situation, I tried to also force myself to come to the temple today. But if I have a situation that I'm going to spread something bad to other people, then I won't come. I know it just fatigue. Yeah. So I still managed to come. And I think once I'm in the temple, I just feel very good. Yeah. So this is some other. I think when we are sick, it's also some kind of test. And the other kind of test is like when we are in the temple. And sometimes you might feel that a lot of people are against us. They say things to oppose us or do things to oppose us. You feel like there's a lot of opposite force against you. In that situation, do you think you can still make yourself stay at temple?
Yeah, that's a difficult one, right? I mean,
I did.
if people are kind of, well, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it make it difficult for you here, and then it's like, yeah, do you want to continue? I mean, so really, if we say, oh no, I don't want to deal with that, I don't want to come anymore, then who loses out? And we do, because then we're not able to. That's like giving up. I mean, and then we aren't able to cultivate outside. So no matter what, I mean, we have to always try to be grateful, appreciative, no matter what. And if we don't get into a contentious, type of situation, we try to always harmonize. Then that will help resolve that kind of karma, or whether it's the test, allow us to pass more easily. We always have to keep that in mind. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to, in that moment to think that way. Say, oh no, I have to, maintain my composure and not, accept whatever criticisms or whatever it is, right? But that is the way to actually overcome that.
Sometimes I've heard things happen, and I sometimes imagine the extreme condition. I think, of course, I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm thinking if people would still allow me to be in the temple, and they would just leave me alone, I would still come, no matter what kind of places or what kind of how people treat me, unless they just want to throw me out.
See, but
of course, that's not going to happen again.
In that situation, what we should do is we're not coming to the temple for that person. Right? We should still come because we're coming to the temple for ourselves.
Right.
Because someone else cannot cultivate for us. We have to come to cultivate for ourselves. understand?
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if we encounter that sort of thing, we should, the best way to deal with it is to go up to that person or person and say, well, maybe you did something wrong, and so then it's good to find out, listen, did I do something wrong? Did I offend you? And then we could, go from there, but just let it affect you and then push you out of the temple, stop your cultivation, then that's going backward.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things is, right, don't let these things influence us in a way that, I mean, positive influence is good, but, and we'd be able to accept, but don't let it influence us so that we give up, or, things like that. So,
Just one last word. Just don't think temple is the public place. This is not
Yeah.
ivory tower. This is also a public place that for us to meet with different personalities.
But we should strive to make it be as perfect as
Yeah.
possible. It's
Right.
not going to be perfect.
right. Okay, so if I had said anything wrong, I ask the saints and Buddhas and God for forgiveness and your corrections. All right, thank you.